Welcome to this episode of the This Is Believeland Podcast. I am your host, James Mastrucci, and I am joined by my co-host, Jordan Cohen. Jordan, welcome.
Thank you. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. We got some exciting stuff coming up in a few weeks, but we'll kind of put that out there when the time comes. But stay tuned, stay ready for this because we got some exciting new stuff coming here between This Is Believeland and the site that you write for, Real Browns fans.
Yep. I'm really excited for it. So, few more weeks.
A few more weeks. I want to have that out there and ready to go. But right now, we're talking about something. It's still a relevant topic, to be honest, even though it happened a week ago. But it's still a relevant topic, and that's Carl Nassib of the Raiders, former Browns defensive end. He is the first active openly gay player in NFL history, and that was a very landmark, monumental moment for the sport.
Yeah. I mean, I am just so happy. And I saw, these dumbasses, sorry for the language, dumbasses on Twitter saying, the NFL shouldn't be political. And, besides the fact that, you go to a game and you stand for the national anthem, this isn't political, right?
It's not.
This isn't a political move. It's not like he's saying, he endorses a political party or, to me, this is just awesome. This is getting rid of some of the kind of toxic masculinity that exists in the NFL. I think it's being vulnerable. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really great thing to see. And on top of that, he made a $100,000 donation to the Trevor Project, which the NFL also matched, which is a youth program for LGBTQ. It's kind of like an outreach program. And it's very helpful that he made that sizable of a donation, and the NFL actually matched it. And, during Pride Month, that is all things, too. So perfect timing in regards to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I also, not to crap on a Browns coordinator, but I'm about to crap on a Browns coordinator. Guys like Mike Prefer, these guys don't belong in the NFL.
Correct.
Right? And, I get, it was coming a few years ago. I don't know. To me, this is, Mike Prefer doesn't belong in the NFL, right? 5% of people, statistically, are LGBTQ, right? Mm-hmm. And the general, there's just you can't be open because of people like Mike Prefer in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, he's only the vocal minority of people that are like that, because I can tell you right now, there are tons of other people that think the exact same way he does.
100%.
And like you just said, people will respond with, oh, that was a couple years ago, he's changed now, but you know what? There's a saying, it's a tiger never changes his stripes, okay? He's just not saying it out loud anymore. He's not saying it so people hear him. He still thinks that stuff. Let's be real here.
Right. And, not to use, a Holocaust analogy, but to use a Holocaust analogy, guess what we did after the Holocaust? Guess what the world did? They punished Nazis, even those that said, that apologized and said they don't believe it anymore. They're still, and again, I'm not saying, he did not kill millions of people. I get that. But, he advocated for it.
He did.
His statement was, nuke the gays.
He put them on an island and nuke it till it glows, okay?
Right.
Which is, on any level, whatever your viewpoint is towards the gay community is completely unacceptable. You cannot like gays, that's fine, but yeah, you just said it right there. He's advocating for genocide, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and to me, everybody's so surprised that I saw on Twitter, and I'm so happy about it, but I kept seeing tweets surprised it finally happened. It's yeah, there's a reason you're surprised, right? Because guys like Prefer are all over the place. Mm-hmm. And so these players don't feel comfortable because they're worried about their next contract, right? They're worried about even being able to see the field.
Yeah. That's a good point there. I mean, a lot of people were putting some stuff out there. Oh, that means he's going to get cut, or he's trying to protect himself from being cut, or he's never going to get another contract again, or the Raiders are going to get rid of him. And the first thing I thought of when I saw people saying that the Raiders are going to cut him are people don't know the history of the Raiders very well. They've been a franchise willing to buck the trends or go with the opposite way of thinking. I mean, they hired the first modern day minority head coach in Tom Flores. They hired the first modern day African American head coach in Art Shell. They had the first NFL CEO who was a female, and that was Amy Trask. Okay, they're not afraid to go into the unknown. Okay, and having a gay player on the roster and embracing them is honestly kind of the Raider way, if you think about it. It's something different.
Yeah, like honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, like I don't think there's a team. And first off, Nassib's still a good player. Like Browns fans, like have this weird like view of him is that he was a bad player and that's why he got cut. Like no, he got cut because Hugh Jackson was a bad coach.
Yes.
Right, and like he played well in Tampa and he played well last year in Oakland. He does play special teams and he's rotational edge rusher linebacker.
And you know what? You need those guys.
You do. No, trust me, I would take him out in the Browns in a nanosecond.
Same.
Like, and so he is not getting cut. And by the way, like this idea that, oh, he's doing it now so he doesn't, that's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, first off, the one that I hated the most that I saw on Twitter was jersey sales. Like, do these people, like, sorry, you're an idiot. Like, NFL players don't get one dime from their jersey sale.
Yeah, they don't. They
don't get a dime. Right. So that's one. Two, I saw the dumb, like, oh, well, he's doing it to not get cut. Like, guys, again, going back to Mike Prefer, we have the NFL filled with guys like Mike Prefer. I'm pretty sure coming out as gay has many more consequences than not. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I don't think, like, to me, it's not, he was never going to get cut in the first place. I don't think this will result in him getting cut. But, like, if I were him, I would be more worried about getting cut now than I was before. And again, I think you're right. It's the Raiders. Like, I think he's probably, like, if there's a franchise that's going to be willing to do this in the NFL, it is the Raiders.
Yeah, and if there is a franchise willing to take on all of the flack that's going to come with it, because let's be real here, they're going to get flack for this from some of those, I guess, out there groups and organizations and people that are going to protest because of it, because, you know, they're horrible people. They're ready for it. They're prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean, so here's my thing. Like, it's not just the out there. Like, I mean, yes, they are out. Their views are out there, but the problem is, like, those comments get repeated on national television.
Yeah, and that's a huge problem, honestly.
Right, like
that's a massive problem.
Right, and I think you're right. Like, the Raiders, out of any franchise, are the ones that are going to be able to handle it. But like, I mean, to me, it's sad that like it's taken this long. It's sad that people are surprised.
And you know, I know there was also some other perspective of why are people making a big deal out of this. There's been gay players in the NFL. There hasn't been one that's active on a roster on the field who's who's been open. It's just it hasn't happened before. There's been other sports, of course, that there has been, you know, openly gay players, but football was not one of them.
No,
all active.
Not at all.
So you think of Jason Collins in the NBA was one, and that was towards the end of his career. And you know why he did it at the end of his career. It's because he knew that the backlash that was going to come from it.
And it came.
It did. You look back to Glenn Burke, who played for the Dodgers back a long time ago.
Yep.
And he basically got ran out of baseball.
Yep. So
there's a lot of backlash that comes with this. So it was a very, very brave moment for Carl Nassib, and I'm very happy for him. I'm glad to be able to be open and true to who he is.
Yeah, me too. I'm really happy for him. To me, like, again, I don't think this is a political issue. Like, I think this is like there's a serious problem in the NFL, and honestly in sports in general, as you kind of just raised, where like coming out results in you facing serious backlash. Like, that's a serious problem. That's not a political problem. Like, that's not like politics is my job. Like, I am studying political science and international relations. Like, this isn't politics. Like, it's not. It is like a deep social issue.
Yeah.
In sports, and I mean, the problem is we need brave people like Carl Nassib to do this, to come out and show the world. But now we hope, like, again, I'm glad he's on the Raiders because we hope there's not backlash, and there's going to be, but we hope it's not the backlash significant enough that he's out of the NFL in a few years.
Yeah. Like I said, if there was a football team prepared and ready for this, it was the Raiders. It is
Right.
the Raiders.
Right. And I do think, like, I don't know John Gruden's politics or views on this. Like, again, I shouldn't say politics. I don't know his views on this, but, like, I feel like he would be a coach that would be open to it. Like, John Gruden always has just seemed like a guy that tries to get any advantage he can. And, like, there's a market inefficiency because anytime somebody comes out as gay, they get cut, right? Which means, like, there are good players. And if you're open to that, you're probably going to get more of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from what I've seen, I haven't seen anything negative from the team perspective on that, but I wouldn't expect that either, considering their history. But I've seen overwhelmingly positive things from the Raiders' perspective and the NFL perspective for the most part. The NFL perspective for the most part, because there are those fringe people out there that get all mad and bothered by something like this, which is completely ridiculous, but they're also the same people that don't think it's a really, who try to say this is a political thing, but at the same time try to say that praying in the end zone after a touchdown isn't a political thing. You know what I mean? It's like
right.
You made one thing, first of all, neither are, but you made one of them political and one of them not. They're not really political things.
Right, because labeling them political for these guys means we don't have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that's what it does, right? When we label something political, it means we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's why they're doing it, right? Because they don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so unfortunate to me. And again, like, I have seen national commentators doing this on, like, Twitter.
Yeah.
Right? I was watching NFL Network that night, and I didn't see. All I saw was, like, happy, which was great. I was really happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, listen, when the Raiders play their first regular season game in whatever Fox Sports or whatever network it ends up being on,
they're going to talk about Carl Nassib
they're going
the
to
entire
talk
game.
about it. Yep, and I just hope it is not what I fear it could be. Right? Like, I hope it is just all positive. I hope the national commentators that get the game are good because, like, first off, like, it should be talked about. It should not be the analysis of the game, right? Mm-hmm. That has no effect on the game whatsoever. Like, Carl Nassib is a good NFL player. He's been a good NFL player for a long time. He's going to continue to be a good NFL player absent injury.
Oh,
right.
And I just looked up the Raiders' schedule.
Yeah.
Week 1 is Monday Night Football against the Ravens.
That's outstanding. I mean, it could be awful, but, like, I also kind of hope.
When it comes to game time, when it comes to the regular season, you're going to hear lots of Carl Nassib talk the week up to this game.
Oh, yeah.
Because we already heard a ton of it. You're going to hear a ton of it then.
Yeah. I mean, my hope is they select So is Monday Night Football, is that set commentating team?
The week 1 is usually the one where they have the double.
Right.
Monday Night Football.
Right.
So
that one I hope it's good. Like, there are plenty of both color commentary and play-by-play guys they could put up there that will be great. And I just hope that's what they put up. And, like, I mean, not an old, like, old, like, traditional dude.
Yeah. It's actually just a one. They went back to just one on Monday Night Football, so it's just the game.
Okay.
I kind of like the double Monday Night Football games for a little bit that they had going on there.
Does Tony Romo still commentate? Did he ever do Monday night? I thought was he Thursday night?
He does. Who does he work for?
Yeah,
he doesn't work for ESPN, so it's not going to be him. Okay. I always forget where he works for. Because he works with Jim Nantz on CBS Sports.
CBS. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been a great team. I would have been good with that team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a lot of the stuff that came out when Nassib did come out, like, was saying, like, NFL players have known this, but nobody wants to say anything because they're so afraid of their career ending.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Yeah. Or worse. And that's it's extremely unfortunate that either one of those is a possibility or a reality. That,
Yep.
I mean, that's why you hear I saw a tweet today from someone who played for the Bills in the '90s saying, "Yeah, we had gay players on our team then," and I'm like, I'm not surprised.
No,
it's not surprising. It's just at the time they couldn't say anything because they knew they'd get cut.
I mean, honestly, man, like 7 days ago, people couldn't say anything, right? Like that's not the problem. Is that wasn't just in the '90s.
It's
like we're in 2021,
mm-hmm.
and we have the first.
Yeah.
I mean, like for a country and for a sport that supposedly represents the country,
mm-hmm.
for a country that like claims to be this like bastion of democracy, like, and really is a world too. It's not just the country. Like, there's something shameful about that. That like it's 2021 and we have the first NFL player to come out. And like, I think Carl Nassib's a good player. I am positive, again, just statistically speaking, there's a star in the NFL, probably more than one, that's gay that doesn't feel comfortable coming out because they're worried about the consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe this helps propel someone who's a star player who also happens to be. Maybe, I don't know. But what I do think is that it's going to make it... It's a step forward in the right direction at the absolute least. It's a step forward.
No argument for it. I think it's a giant step forward.
I think it'll help some of the younger people currently maybe in middle school or high school or possibly college feel more comfortable with teammates knowing.
Yep.
Which is important.
It's enormous.
Because while on the NFL level it's great, however, if it doesn't go down and doesn't start earlier, it's kind of hard to make the change at the end level. That end level being the NFL.
Right. No, it takes time. All this stuff takes time. It's going to take a long time, but my hope is this is really the start.
Yes. And let's move on to our next topic here, because I think we covered the Carl Nassib topic quite extensively, quite thoroughly.
Yes.
And again, happy for you, Carl. But there was a tweet from Pro Football Focus last week, and I quote tweeted it, and which led to you interacting with my quote tweet. But projected contract extensions for the 2018 quarterback class. Who deserves the largest payday? This is per Brad Spielberger. He had Baker Mayfield at 4 years, 165, 4 years for Lamar Jackson at 166, and 4 years for Josh Allen at 168. Those are really close together, and I'm not sure why.
I mean, I think... So, I don't think he's wrong, right? I think if the Browns were to give Baker an extension this summer, that's probably what he would be asking for. And that's my concern, right? Like,
yeah,
this argument that I would rather pay him that than have to pay him next year 4 years, 200. I totally disagree with that. Like, if he's so good next year that he's going to get more after that, fantastic. Take our money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and to me, it gets to this idea of tiers, right? And I think that's kind of what we're going to talk about for a little bit. But, like,
yeah,
guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson fit in this tier where you're giving them the money and you're happy about it.
Yes.
Right? Like, they are star quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I worry that Baker, you put him in that salary tier, and all of a sudden his value as a quarterback goes really far down because the per dollar play you're getting goes down.
Yes.
And, like, I'm trying to think, like, who would I have in that first tier, right? Like, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, for sure. Yeah. Probably Tom Brady still at this point, because even though I'm not sure how great, like, he is on the field, like, it seems like his leadership and just his brain are that useful. That Aaron Rodgers guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else. Who else would you have?
Maybe Dak. Maybe.
Yeah. He's kind of like that borderline.
That's when you start getting to you're unsure. Is
right? Like
Dak.
you're 1.5.
Russell Wilson. would be
I
that
know this
next
is weird.
kind of step down.
Like, I know this is weird. I don't know that Russell Wilson's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
can
don't.
see that.
I know Russell Wilson. Like, we know who he is, and we know he can be great. We saw what happened last year when they were letting him throw the ball more.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't, like, we also saw what the Cowboys, when Dak was healthy, what that offense looked like. Like, their defense couldn't stop you and me out there. But, like, that offense, like, Dak was throwing, like, 40, 50 times a game and just demolishing teams.
Yeah.
It's like, I think Dak can, and I think that says something. But, yeah, like, there's, like, this tier 1.5, right? Maybe even tier 2, where, like, you have, like, Dak, Russell Wilson,
Stafford.
Well, Stafford. Yeah, like guys that you're not thrilled about having to pay it to. But you're also kind of like, you know what? They're good at, like, we can win with them making this much money.
You can justify the contract at the end of the day.
Right.
You can justify it.
Right. Like the dollar per play value is not ideal, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. You can build a winning team with it. It's not like that top tier to me is, it doesn't matter how much you pay them. The value is going to be higher on the play side. Like, you are getting more for your money just by having them play for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people can say whatever they want about Mahomes, like, in that he has to drop back far. Like, I don't think there's a young quarterback in the NFL I would take over Mahomes. Josh Allen would be close. But beyond, like, Justin Herbert, maybe. I'm interested to see how he plays this year.
I want to see one more year out of him before putting him in that category, but it's like on the fringe of that.
Yeah, right. And, like, I guess in the tier 2 would be, I would have a guy like Kyler Murray, right? Like, along with Dak and Russell Wilson. But he may be tier 3. Like, Kyler Murray's a weird one, too, because if you look at his numbers, like, his basic counting stats, they're great.
Yeah.
But, like, when you watch him, there's just, and I don't know if it is the offensive play calling or if it's him, but they're just, like, I don't feel like he's going to win me a game.
I think it's a combination of the play calling, and I do think, as much as people like to, I guess, have been trying to shoot down this line of thinking, I think he's too short.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I never understood, right, about this height comment. Like, nobody's saying, like, if you're short, you're inherently going to be a bad quarterback. But, like, the response, which is, oh, what about Drew Brees or Russell Wilson? Like, you pick, like, 2 guys in 20 years. Like, height does matter. I don't think it matters in the way we once thought it did.
Yeah.
But, like, and height means you cannot deal with interior pressure, right? That's why the Browns' offense always sucks when we go up against a good defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every time.
Yeah.
It sucks. And, like, Stefanski figured that out towards the end of the year, which was awesome. But, like, Baker can't throw against that.
Yeah, and you also have to worry about passing lanes becoming clogged with the shorter quarterback, which is why it was very crucial that the Browns incorporated so many rollouts into their offense. It got him away from the pressure, got him away from the tall linemen, and there were no clogged throwing lanes. He had open ways to throw, and that was perfect. That's how you counter that.
You and I talked after week 1 where we got our butts handed to us by the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying, like, this narrative that Baker's rolling out too much, to me, was wrong.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was rolling out too much. It was that he wasn't good when he was rolling out. And I think you're right. Like, Stefanski figured out a way to make it so Baker was effective at doing that.
And I think let me just, I guess, clarify it. The issue I really had with Baker previously, prior to last season, wasn't he was rolling out. It was that he was freelancing rolling out. It was more scrambling than a designed rollout, and that's why I think the issues come to him. When it's a bailout rollout or a bailout scramble, that's when I think issues come.
Right.
While he does have some fantastic plays he makes from time to time, but he is much better on the designed rollout than the, oh crap, I have to run now.
Yeah, like, I actually would posit, like, Baker's actually a really good quarterback on designed rollouts.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's really good. And, again, that is why this offense is so important, right? People can say whatever they want. You can't do rollouts without this offensive scheme. Not like we're doing, right? And the reason you can do rollouts in this scheme is every pass and every throw look the same at the start of the snap.
Mm-hmm.
And that lets you do these rollouts. So, I still, like, and this gets back to the tier thing and the contract thing, right? Baker to me is a system quarterback. I think he could be, and we have to see. I don't think he's been consistent enough to really guarantee this, but like, even if he has a really good year this year, I think he's a system quarterback. And you can always find a coach for this system, but he's a system quarterback.
Yeah, I mean,
and Kyler Murray's shorter than Baker is.
He is. And there's nothing wrong with the system quarterback, but it's important to identify whether or not you do have a system quarterback.
Right.
Because what you pay a system quarterback versus what you pay a franchise system doesn't matter quarterback is substantially different. And
sorry.
Oh, and while there's a conversation that needs to be had about Lamar Jackson in regards to his skill set and the way the Ravens do things, with Josh Allen, he's a guy who you pay because he's a franchise quarterback. System doesn't matter, in my opinion. Lamar Jackson, there's a conversation that needs to be had there, much like there needs to be have a conversation about the Browns and Baker. But the difference is that Lamar Jackson's what makes that offense go, while Baker is merely a part of it. And I think that should reflect in the difference of contract value and overall salaries.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, like, here's the thing, man. Like, if Baker's a system quarterback, no matter how great he is honestly, the better he is in this system, the more it means you cannot afford to lose Nick Chubb.
Correct.
Right? Which gives Nick Chubb leverage. And then it gives your offensive lineman leverage. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have to move on from your receiving core, right? So, I mean, I am fine giving Baker the Derek Carr extension. I know he's going to want more than that, which is why I don't think they're going to re-sign him this summer. I think they're going to let it play out another year.
I do too, especially considering that they've had no substantial talks at the moment, which, you know, I saw some people were mad about it, and I saw people on talk radio trying to start a conversation about it, being like, why wouldn't you want him? Why would you wait? You want to do a deal ASAP? I think that was more just a little bit more pandering than I think it was genuine analysis of the situation. But waiting to have a better idea of who he is and who's more responsible for his production, I think is the best. It's a win-win for both sides, honestly.
Oh, 100%. I right, because if you're Baker, right, and like the one thing I will say, like the intangible I love about Baker is like Baker is willing to bet on himself, like to a weirdly like confident degree, which at times is a problem, but like I think both sides right now are better off. Like if you're talking about like a decision tree, right? Like the optimal deal for the Browns is Baker takes an extension that is basically the Derek Carr extension. The optimal deal for Baker is this quote tweet, right? The 4 years, $165 million. I think for Baker, it's like 4 years, $200 million, the optimal deal. And neither side is willing to go give the other side the optimal deal, which means the optimal deal is just wait the year. If Baker plays out of his mind in like MVP level, he's going to get his money. And you know what? If you're the Browns, you suck it up and do it.
Yeah, because you know what you found out? You found out you have a legitimate franchise quarterback. And you know what? You have to
even
pay a little extra.
Even if he's a system guy. Right. Like, even if he's a system guy, like, you then have Russell Wilson. And, again, you deal with it. Right? Like, you just deal with it.
If he's that good that he's getting paid that much, then, on the other hand, he shouldn't need all of the, supercharged offensive teammates that he has. You can divert a little bit money away from the offense, some to him, some to the defense, and still be a good team. But we don't know that he is that good, or even anywhere even approaching that conversation.
I mean, like, so this gets to me like the dangerous tier. And I don't know if this is like, I guess by a salary level, they would still be tier one, like all three of these guys.
Yeah.
But Lamar and Baker to me fit like this dangerous tier, like the Jared Goff with his extension. Like these guys that you have evidence they can be really, really good. They're probably system quarterbacks, but the question is, can you afford to not live with them? And so they get paid boatloads. And to me, that is almost as bad as not having a quarterback.
Yeah.
Maybe it's worse because then you're stuck.
Yeah, at least if you're stuck in the spiral of ever-changing quarterbacks trying to find one. You're not committing a whole bunch of money to those guys, ideally. And so it gives you a little bit more flexibility. If you're paying a quarterback and the quarterback's just not what you thought he was going to be or not good, well, it's like, well, can't really do much here.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. Like, we both agreed. What the Rams gave up to get Stafford while trading Goff, I don't think was a lot. Because given, like, how bad that Goff contract was, you don't want to be stuck with that.
No, you really don't. Because when you get stuck with a contract like that, and, we've talked about it many times. Contrary to what Andrew Berry said, the Jared Goff and Carson Wentz situations are cautionary tales. Okay? Because that's what happens when you overpay a quarterback too quickly or too early. Both those guys aren't on their teams anymore, and those teams, the Rams are in a good enough spot somehow. I don't know how they managed to be still in a good spot, but the Eagles are in shambles.
Yeah. The Eagles are going to probably be the worst team in that division this year, and we'll talk about that in a few weeks, I think. But
yeah, we will.
I just don't. This is the danger of right. And do I believe Andrew Berry actually believed that when he said it?
No.
If you had asked me a few months ago, I would have said yeah, but not after the draft and not after the interviews he's made.
Yeah,
right.
Not after having more information from what he said and how he views things. I don't actually think he believes that. I think he's, I guess to little throwback to what we said earlier, he's playing politics a little bit.
Yep. Right. And it's smart, right? Because a mad Baker's not what you want.
No.
But it is a cautionary tale. It's a really, again, the Rams have a really smart front office that made one really big mistake, and they've actually been able to get away from it, right? I mean, they were a playoff team last year. I think they will be a playoff team again this year. But they got lucky.
They did.
Because I think the Eagles also have a good front office. I don't know that it's as good as some people rate it, but I think it's a good front office. And they made one mistake, and I think that set the franchise back 4 or 5 years.
I think it did too. Because I mean, look what happened. They paid Carson Wentz too early. He kept getting hurt. They drafted his replacement while he was still there. And then they shipped him out of town while firing the coach.
Right.
Like, that's just an all-out disaster.
Yeah. No, it's really bad, right? And I don't feel like paying Carson Wentz came with concerns that are not the same as paying Baker. Correct. But I think Jared Goff was very similar, right? Yes. Jared Goff benefited from having Doogie Howser as his offensive coordinator, right? And Baker's benefiting from not dissimilar, right? Like, this is a system that makes quarterbacks look good. Yeah. Period. Yeah. It makes them look good. And we've seen great quarterbacks in this system. Like last year when Aaron Rodgers won the MVP, right? Mm-hmm. And we've seen guys like Baker, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, who all look like solid quarterbacks in the system. Kirk Cousins too. Like, they look solid to good. And I am guilty of this. Like, I think we end up overrating them. Because the second that coach goes, or the second that team is hit with any sort of problem, they collapse.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big issue. It really is.
Why do you think the 49ers drafted Trey Lance?
It's not because they're happy with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
They identified that their quarterback, who is not too dissimilar from Baker, could only get them so far. The Rams did the exact same thing with Jared Goff. They realized he could only take them so far. He got them to a Super Bowl. I don't know how, but he did. And that was some ugly offense in that Super Bowl.
Right. And so my question is, would you rather have Trey Lance or Jared Goff? And the answer you're going to give, that anybody who's intelligent would give, is Trey Lance, right?
Yes.
Even though Trey Lance is an unknown, you're paying him pennies.
Mm-hmm.
And he could be really great. And I know it's tough to hear that as a Browns fan. Like, trust me, the last thing I want is to be going through this quarterback carousel again. But at some point, like, you don't have a choice. Right? Like, at some point, you max out. And with Baker, my fear about that max out is that the Bengals get good, the Ravens stay good, and the Steelers rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Browns are stuck with not this past year, but the year before, with what happened with the Rams.
Yeah.
Right? That all of a sudden you can't make the play. And the Rams did a great job. Again, I'm not saying they didn't, but like, do you think this Rams team last year with the stud defense, the great coordinators, would ever win a Super Bowl? I mean, maybe if they got lucky.
Yeah.
Maybe. But like, I wouldn't bet on it. They would not have been one of the top teams I would have bet on. I probably would have gotten them where they got because I love their defense. But that offense, despite having Sean McVay, who, again, I think is probably the best offensive coordinator in football, despite that, they could not win.
No, they couldn't. It was an uphill battle. They weren't going to win.
Right, and I'm not trying to say that's Baker, right? Theoretically, it's plausible that Baker turns around and next year plays just like he did at the end of last season for an entire season at such a level where he's not turning the ball over. Maybe we expand the offense a little bit. Like, this is in the world of possibilities, in which case, again, you do the Russell Wilson thing. You suck it up and you pay him. But what if he doesn't? Right? Like, what if Baker's just what he was the full part of last year?
Yeah.
Then you're screwed. Then you lose Nick Chubb, you lose Denzel Ward, you probably lose Odell, and you may be able to keep Landry around. You got to get rid of Hooper. You may be able to re-sign Treader. I think if that's the world you're in, you don't have a choice. You have to pay Treader a huge contract. The defense is not going to get much better because you can't afford to keep anybody.
Yeah.
Like, these things have massive implications. Had the Rams not traded Jared Goff this year, they would have needed to rebuild that entire defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is unfortunate. Like, that defense is incredible. Nobody wants to see that happen. But I think what the Bears did this year is really intelligent. And I know they've gotten crap for like not being able to find a quarterback, but they didn't give Mitch this big extension 2 years ago after he had that really good season, got them to the playoffs. And they waited, and
they saw that he wasn't the guy.
Right, and they were in a position, like, it doesn't matter your views on Justin Fields, like, they were in a position to draft a quarterback ranked in pretty much everybody's top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. They were able to draft him. Right? Like, that to me is good planning, right? If Baker looks next year like he did the first, like when Freddie Kitchens was coach, then not giving him that extension means, hey, Baker, it's been real. It's been fun. Hasn't been real fun. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, they should be in no rush to sign an extension with him, in my opinion. And especially not one with this high of salary for him either. Because when you're paying a guy $40 million, he's supposed to be the guy he's running the show. He's the guy that he's the guy, right?
Well,
he hasn't shown he is yet.
Right.
Like, maybe he gets there.
Right. Like, I want to love watching Baker play because I find his personality is just like a fan of the sport to be somewhat like fun, right? Like, it's fun. It's fun to have like an us against the world mentality, which I think Baker will always have. But again, not dissimilar to Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers always has this us against the world mentality, and I think that's fun. I want him to work because it means Kevin Stefanski gets to open up an offense that I think Kevin Stefanski's hiding a lot of stuff in because he doesn't trust Baker.
Yeah.
So I want to see all of it, but you can't just assume you're going to see it because he had 6 to 8 good games to end the season.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, we know the dangers of putting too much stock into just a handful of games with Baker Mayfield. We've all done it once, okay? Granted, the circumstances were different, but we've all done it once. It's important to be careful. Wait for more information. Wait for more data so we have a better idea of what we're seeing.
Right. I mean, I saw this comparison, like, oh, well, if he's Ryan Tannehill, then Yeah, it sucks, but like Ryan Tannehill getting the Titans to the playoffs every year, and like despite the fact that the Titans aren't winning in the playoffs, like I guess I could see the point. Like they got to the AFC Championship game, whatever. I'll take that point. Like
Yeah.
let's say Ryan Tannehill is in that tier 2,
Mm-hmm.
especially he's not getting paid a lot. So I guess now he is, but like let's say he's in that tier 2 with Russell Wilson and all those guys. I don't think he is, but I can hear the argument. Ryan Tannehill's biggest problem is he doesn't have ups, right? Like Ryan Tannehill, you know what you're getting every single game.
Yeah.
If that was Baker, again, would I love paying him that much money? No. Would I really rank him that tier 2? Probably not. But like, it's okay. You can live with that, right? Because then you have money, you can build the offense in a way, and you hope you get lucky. You make the playoffs every year. Baker hasn't shown that. Like, this may be an unpopular opinion because it doesn't fit like fantasy football, but I would rather have a consistent quarterback that doesn't have the ups than an inconsistent quarterback with the massive ups and downs. Because week after week, you don't know what you're getting from Baker. Week after week, you know exactly what you're getting with Ryan Tannehill, which means you know exactly what it takes to win a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just looked up Tannehill's contract. This year is not bad from a money perspective, but holy crap, next year and beyond is brutal.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a team that could regret that contract. We'll have to see. I think losing Arthur Smith, who I think I love Kevin Stefanski, I love Sean McVay, I love Kyle Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
I think Arthur Smith is maybe the best offensive play caller in the NFL.
Yeah, he's really good. But, you know, looking at the contract of Tannehill here, paired with the contract of Derrick Henry, they have outs, which gives them flexibility. So they have outs.
They're a good front office. That's what the Browns have to do.
Yeah, they pretty much have to do that. But let's play a hypothetical exercise here. Then we'll talk about two other players you mentioned just a few minutes ago. Let's pretend Josh Allen gets this 4 years, 168. What should the 4-year total value of their contracts for Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield be, in your opinion?
I mean, if you're the Ravens because he won MVP, I think you have to pay him the 160 to 165. I just think you have to. Because otherwise he'll demand a trade and you're going to get pennies on the dollar for him.
Okay.
I don't know that I even feel comfortable giving. For me, Baker, the problem isn't the money; it's the years.
Mm-hmm.
Like 4 years with Lamar Jackson, he has a lot of money, but the system's built, right? You know you will be a playoff team every year. You get lucky 1 year, and that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Baker, 4 years means. This outside zone scheme better work, and I think it can, but it's not as unique as the Ravens do, right? Like the Ravens are just going to win games because teams aren't prepared, not for lack of trying, just you never face anything like that.
And if you do, you face it once, maybe twice a year if you're in the division.
Right, exactly.
And that's if you even face them in the regular season. You might only face them in the playoffs.
Right, and I am telling you, this outside zone scheme is going everywhere. The Falcons are going to have it now. Obviously, the big three that we all like, Browns, Rams, Niners, the Packers have it.
Mm-hmm.
I am telling you, it is going to spread, and teams are going to figure out how to beat teams like the Browns with a quarterback like Baker, or like the Titans with a quarterback like Tannehill. Because, listen, if Trey Lance is as good as some people think he is, they're screwed on that front.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not going to be able to stop that offense.
Yeah.
But you deal with that, right? You're like, okay, you know what? We may not be able to stop that offense, but we're not going to prepare to stop that offense. We're going to prepare to stop the Browns.
Yeah.
And that may not be for 3 more years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's plausible that it takes a few more years. But when you have Baker for 4 years, you better know that we can get around that problem. You better know.
Yeah.
That's my view.
So the way I look at it, pretending Josh Allen gets this 168, which I think is going to be lower than what he actually gets. I would probably have Lamar in the 150 to 160 range for what he gets, only because while he did win an MVP, Josh Allen hasn't. The one issue Lamar had coming into the NFL, which he still has an issue with, is his arm, his throwing. So that 150, 160, a little bit lower than a guy that's you've seen develop and blossom into an MVP level quarterback, and that's Josh Allen. Even though Lamar already has it. But for Baker, like 120, 130 max. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, it's not just the money; it's the years.
It is the years too, but I'm just looking from the dollar figure perspective, what it should be. I think that's what it should be, and that makes me a little nervous and edgy, knowing, or on edge, just knowing that you're paying Baker Mayfield $30 million and he's not like a top tier quarterback. You're still paying him a lot of money over a short period of time.
Honestly, what I would rather do in that situation is front load it. So like pay him like $50 million over each of the next 2 years, and then so the salary goes down. And in the NFL, the way this works is they obviously like finagle it, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, he's getting the same every year, but for cap reasons, they say he's getting a lot more the first few years because it makes it easier to cut him. Mm-hmm. Or to trade him, like that is, and I would be willing to pay him more money if he would be willing to do that.
Yeah, okay.
But if he's not willing to do that, if he wants even distribution or even worse, more at the end, mm-hmm. I'm not extending him. Like I don't like, not even for the 120 million. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
it's too dangerous. It's set to until we know what he is, which we don't. Until we do, I'm not paying him that.
Yeah.
I know that's conservative. I know that's cautious, but I would rather be conservative and cautious than aggressive in a rebuild you can't get out of.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. I know we're about to wrap things up here, but in my opinion, there are only two players that they should even be thinking about contract extensions with who are not Baker Mayfield, and one is Denzel Ward. That's the number one priority in my opinion. Mm-hmm. The other one is a discussion you have, and that's Nick Chubb. And we've talked about this before, but ideally a Derrick Henry style contract, maybe a little bit less than what he got because Derrick Henry has eclipsed him in rushing yards a couple times. And Derrick Henry at this moment in time is performed as the better back overall. Yeah. But a similar style deal where the Browns can get out of it after 2 years and they're not on the hook for a whole bunch of dead money.